All right. Hey, everybody. Jamie Terrell here, financial literacy coach and profit strategist. Hope you guys are well. I am currently broadcasting in my Facebook group, Financial Literacy for Women Business Owners. If you're not a member, come over and join us. I am also broadcasting over on my YouTube channel, so please make sure to subscribe if you're watching me over there and on my business page. So wherever you're watching me from, hey guys, it is January 8th, I think. I've finally figured out what days we're at right now. And it has been a week, you guys. It has been a week on a lot of fronts. And I just want to acknowledge that first and foremost here is that it has been a week. And so for those of you who are just kind of processing emotions, I am right there with you. And I wanted to let you know that. But I've committed to showing up for you guys. And we have had actually some developments this week on the stimulus front and on the PPP front. So I want to make sure that I'm bringing you guys the information that you need. So when you get here, tell me you're here. Tell me you can hear me. Say hi. I want to see who's here. We've got a good number already on. So I want to say hi to you guys. And then I'll give you a quick update and then we can take some questions. So I've got a lot of time for questions today. I'm going to try to keep this at 30 minutes. We will see if it works. And I really want to kind of see what kind of questions you guys have. But I did post, I don't know if you guys saw, if you're in my group, you probably saw it. There was some new information on PPP loans, some new guidance that was issued by the Treasury this week. So that was really, really great to see. Okay, great. I see a bunch of people. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Christine. Hi, Deanna. Hi, Terrence. Hi, Marissa. Hi, Natalie. Hi, everybody. You guys are awesome. So we had some new guidance that was issued. I did my own summary of it. So it speaks to both the process and the changes for PPP loan one, if you're getting the first draw of the PPP loan. And then it also speaks to the second draw on PPP loans. So I did a couple of posts in the group yesterday about all of this. So I'm not going to go into all the details because I did talk about it quite a bit in the post, but if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. It does look like, I did get some dates. So it does look like, you guys get your notebooks ready. If you're looking for a first draw PPP loan, i.e. you did not get the last PPP loan for various different reasons, okay? If you didn't get it, you are going to be able to get kind of first in line. Some banks will be opening as early as January 11th. So you guys, that is what, 9th, 10th? That's Monday. That's Monday. So if you didn't get it the first time around, you think you should have, or you wish you had, then you can get the first draw. Now, the first draw does not require that you have that 25% reduction, okay? So for a first draw loan, you just have to fill out the application form, calculate your 2.5 times average payroll costs, and go from there. Now you can use 2019 or 2020 at this point. A lot of people probably don't have 2020 yet, and your payroll costs. I suggest picking the year that's higher. So in a lot of cases, that might be 2019. So if you have access to that, you might want to use 2019 as your base year for the calculation of your PPP loan. But it will be for some banks, and it's going to start with the smaller local community banks, not necessarily the big guys. So if your bank portal doesn't open right away, that is why. The smaller banks are kind of getting first dibs on this. So you could seek out, and I can do a post as well. I'll do a post after this where I will have people recommend the banks that they used. I know there were a lot of people that had great success with various different banks. Small community banks are usually a good option. Credit unions, things like that. I know a lot of people really, really did well with Bluevine and PayPal, and it was an easy process, but those probably will not be offered on Monday would be my guess. And we may even have very different banks. So just because a bank offered it last time doesn't mean that they'll offer it again this time. If you're looking for a second draw PPP loan, those will start becoming available as early as January 13th. So if you already had your PPP loan and now you want to get a second one, well, January 13th, some of those banks will be opening up to start processing the second round. So let's see. I'm not sure if there's a list of who the banks are. You might just want to check around and see if banks in your area are planning to be offering it, because they should be able to tell you that at this point. Let's see. So I will post to get some recommendations for different banks, but be on the lookout. Next week is when it will start. I don't think it's going to be one of those situations where it sells out really quickly, but you probably do want to start getting your documentation together just so that you have it for moving forward. Now, if you're getting a second loan, a lot of people have asked me, do I have to have had my first loan forgiven? No, but you do need to have used it all, and you need to have used it all properly. They don't really go into a lot of details to what that means, but ultimately you probably have to have used it all on the things you were supposed to use it on, and therefore, and have already kind of used the amount. Doesn't mean you're at the end of your 24 weeks, but you have to have used your PPP loan. So that is one of the stipulations for getting a second round of PPP loans. Okay. So let me just quickly look at your questions I'm going to take questions on PPP right now. There is nothing yet on the EIDL Advance. Nothing has come out regarding the EIDL Advance. It does not look like the portal is open again yet. Remember, the EIDL Advance, you cannot get a second one. If you're in a low income area and you meet other requirements, then you can actually increase from whatever you got, the amount that you got, all the way up to $10,000. We don't know the process on doing that yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. When I do, I'll bring it to you. And then there's also, you can also, if you did not get an EIDL Advance, it stands to reason, we believe that the portal is going to open back up for people that did not get it the first time around. But as of yet, I have not seen that opening up. Okay, let's see, just really quickly, looking through your questions. Okay, so you say, Stephanie says, hey, Jamie, our bank finally reached back out with updating our forgiveness app to the full amount, not taking out the EIDL Advance. Great. So you should see that happening. The EIDL Advance should not need to be subtracted anymore. And that was made clear in the guidance that was issued. I believe it was late Wednesday night that came out. So if you haven't talked to your bank since then, you might want to reach out. It still didn't appear to give real guidance, though, to banks on what to do in the case that a loan had already been forgiven. So if you're applying for forgiveness now and forward, or maybe if you had one in process, hopefully your EIDL Advance will not be subtracted from your PPP forgiveness, because that was in the new bill that just passed. But if you already had yours forgiven, we're still waiting a little bit to figure out what's going to happen for people like that. Because to me, in my read of the bill, it looks like it's supposed to be retroactive, and it's supposed to, and the Treasury is supposed to determine basically how to make people whole for that. So hopefully that would mean if you've got a remaining PPP loan that basically is your EIDL Advance that turned into a PPP loan because it wasn't forgiven, that they would hopefully forgive that. But as of yet, I'm just recommending for people, if a payment comes due, go ahead and pay it. And hopefully there will be a way to kind of reconcile out once we have more guidance. Okay, what else? Lots of highs. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Debbie. Sole proprietors, people with no employees, can 100% apply for a PPP loan. What you will need, though, is you need to be able to show a profit in your business. That means on your Schedule C, assuming that you file a Schedule C in your tax return, you're going to go to line 31. As long as that is positive, you should be able to apply for a loan. Now, you can do that off of 2019 or 2020. Most people don't have 2020 done unless you're like a way overachiever. I do not have 2020 done. I filed my 2019, I believe, like 1 or 2 days before the actual deadline. So don't look to me to be your guiding light on that. But yes, you absolutely can. It will be essentially a loan that you can get to pay yourself. You take that line 31 of your Schedule C, right? Divide it by 12, multiply by 2.5. That's what you're going to be able to get for your PPP loan, and you'll be able to pay yourself the entire thing, which is great. So my understanding is you can't get a second PPP if you get the Shuttered venue grant. So there is some stipulations on Shuttered venues that there is a specific grant program. Again, I don't have information on how to apply for that yet. But if you are a venue, a lot of this is good for music venues, things like that have basically been closed. If you meet requirements, there is a grant program specifically for you. So that's just a grant. It's not a loan that's going to be forgivable. It's direct money to you. So if you are in that spot, that's probably preferable to the PPP, the second PPP, but you want to make sure that you qualify. So I will post some things. I think I've posted some of the information about this, but I'll go back and make sure that I've posted some information about where to find out more about the Shuttered Venue Grant if there are people in here that would like to know. Okay. So if you are a sole proprietor, Andrew, ultimately, if you got a first PPP, you will have already used it all because it's payment to yourself, right? It's essentially 10 weeks-ish worth of pay. And they closed, the last people who to get PPP loans were in the beginning of August. So you would have been past that 10 weeks. Theoretically, I do still think it's best practice to actually pay yourself. It's kind of silly. But actually transferring the money from your business bank account to your personal bank account. And if you need to transfer it back in, go ahead. It's a kind of silly thing. I don't think it's going to be an issue for most banks anymore, especially with now the reduction in the support that you need to give to get your loan forgiven. But I do recommend it. But ultimately, if you got one as a sole proprietor, you don't have any employees, you would be able to get a second one, assuming you could show the 25% decrease quarter over quarter. Okay, let's see. For PPP loan, is it the lesser average of 2.5 months in 2019 or 2020? No, pick whichever one you want. You can pick 2019 or 2020. I want to stipulate, because this gets confusing, I think, a little bit. The rules around calculating the PPP loan are the same, i.e. it's still 2.5 times your average payroll costs. Now, previously, you had to use 2019. Now, if you have 2020, you can use it. In theory, you can also use the last 12 months, but that's basically going to be easiest to use 2020, right? So that's how you actually calculate the amount of the loan you get. Now, to determine if you're doing a second draw, right, how much of the loan you can get, that's when you have to look 2020 quarter versus 2019 quarter and figure out if you have a 25% drop in revenue or gross receipts, right? I.e. the money coming into your business. So it gets a little bit kind of tricky with how to calculate that out, but ultimately that's how it's going to work. If you're a seasonal business, it works very similar to the first round. Okay, let's see. Yes. This is another one I'm still waiting on some clear guidance on, you guys, but keep it in the back of your head in your Rolodex, which is the employee retention credit. Previously, this was something that existed in 2020. Not a lot of people did it because PPP was a lot better for most people. And so, but ultimately it was a way to get a payroll tax credit for continuing to pay your employees up to $10,000 per employee. So that is something that now they've changed it. You actually can get both. And they've made it such that it should be able to be retroactive. Okay, so that retention credit has been extended through July. So you can get it the first 6 months of 2021. It also is retroactive. I don't know how to claim it retroactively yet. So it is a complicated calculation as well. I would talk to, if you have a CPA, this would be a really good time to pull them in and ask them to look at your specific circumstance, because the calculations do get a little bit tough to explain to a huge group of people at once. Really, really better for a one-to-one conversation around the employee retention credit and whether you qualify for it and walk you through how to actually get it. I'm going to bring you information as I have it, but I want to make sure that you are aware that it exists and to pay attention to that, because it could save some money. Let's see. No, for PPP, you have to have been in business by February 15th of 2020. The PPP is based off of 2019 or 2020 payroll costs. I would pick the one that's going to get you a higher number. Let's see. Yes, that should not impact you if you got a state grant. I haven't seen any exclusions around PPP for that. Let's see. For PPP2, can you use it over 24 weeks? And are there okay, so lots more options on what you can spend it on, importantly. So you still have to spend 60%, at least 60% is the minimum on payroll. Remember, if you're a sole proprietor with no employees, you're going to spend the whole thing on payroll. For those of you who have employees, at least 60% has to go to payroll. It's anywhere between an 8 and 24 week period. It used to be either 8 or 24, you got to pick. Now you can pick any time in between. That's actually really helpful when it comes to things like your employee count and things like that. If you can kind of cut that time off. That was what was awkward last time, I felt like, is they were doing the employee average full-time employee count, right, over a full 24 weeks. But a lot of business had burned through that by week 12, right? And yet they were having to keep employees on in some cases in order to be able to keep that average headcount up for when they applied for forgiveness, which was really kind of silly. So they've changed that now. They've changed that also for round 1, and you can end it at any point. So you can end it at, so it always starts when you get the money, right? That's the beginning. And it cuts off either anytime after 8 weeks. So, you go from the beginning of when you got the money to 8 weeks. Then you can shut it off at week 8. You can shut it off at week 10, 12, 14, 16, 24, 20 and a half, whatever it is. But basically, you can cut it off whenever you're done spending the money, which will be helpful when you go back to apply for forgiveness. The 60% minimum for payroll, remember, now the 40%, there's a lot more things that you can spend on it. It says kind of more just general type operating expenses, which includes a lot of things, in my opinion. So that's going to be software costs. That's going to be PPE for employees. That's going to be a lot of just your regular recurring costs in your business are going to be able to be used in that 40% if you need it. I think most people still can use the whole thing, given you have the whole 24 weeks. Most people are still probably going to be able to use it all on payroll, right? Because it's only 2.5 months worth of payroll, and you have almost 6 months to use it. So in most cases, the cleanest and easiest thing to do is still just to spend it all on payroll, I think. It's also going to require less, you to produce less documentation when you go to get the loan forgiven if it's just payroll versus payroll and 17 other things, right? Okay, let's see. There's not really a minimum for a PPP loan. Different banks may have different minimums. They may not lend if it's under like $2,000 or something like that. But in general, there's not a stated minimum that I have seen. Okay, let's see. So to show the 25% loss, in most cases, there is a caveat. So I talked about this in my post yesterday. There's a caveat. If you have full year 2020 already, if you know your numbers for full year 2020, and you were down 25% 2020 versus full year 2019, then you don't have to look on a quarterly basis, right? In that case, you can just use your 2019 tax return, perhaps your 2020 tax return if you have it, or your 2020, financial statements, books and records from your accounting system. So that is kind of a shortcut. If you know you're down 25% over the year, that counts. That was new that they added in this year. They basically said, well, heck, if you're down 25% on the whole year, you've got to be down at least, math would say, you've got to be down at least 25% for one quarter in that year. If you don't meet that, though, I still want you to go and figure out your quarter by quarter, because you might be only down 10% on the year. Heck, you might be up on the year and still have had a quarter that was down more than 25%. So I have a calculator for you guys for that to kind of walk you through how that works, because depending on when you opened your business, it can get a little bit complicated around what quarters that you compare. In most cases, if you've been in business for 2019 and 2020, full year, you will just compare the same quarter of 2020 versus the same quarter of 2019. And these are fiscal quarters. So it's January through March, April, May and June, July, August, September, and then October, November, December. So those are your quarters. In most cases, you're going to just compare the same quarter with the same quarter. But if you started your business sometime in 2019 or maybe first quarter of 2020, the calculation's a little different. So I have a calculator to help you guys with that. I've linked it above if you're on Facebook, below if you're watching me on YouTube. I believe it's jamietroll.com/PPP calculator, I think. So try me, but I think that's what it is. So go download that, and it'll show you exactly how to walk through it based on when you started your business and how to come up with that. You don't include, here, let's talk about what you don't include. Revenue, this is revenue coming into your business. This is the gross receipts, right? You do not include unemployment. That's not business money. That shouldn't be making its way into your business financials at all. That's personal money. You don't include if you got a PPP loan, okay? So if you got a PPP loan, don't include it. That is not going to be something. So if you would have been down for a quarter, but you weren't because of PPP, you still would count under this. You still would qualify. Don't include it in EIDL advance. Okay. So don't include any of those things, and don't include any loans because loans aren't income anyway. So now grants and things like that, I don't know specifically. There's a lot of different grants out there, and some of them do count as income technically. So for grants, you may need to include it, you may not. I haven't really seen clear guidance on just the myriad of different grants out there. But if you generally got money through the CARES Act, you should not need to include it there. But check out my calculator. That's what I do when I'm stressed, you guys. That was my stress relief yesterday. I made you guys a calculator. So I don't know what that says about me, but that's my outlet, I guess. Okay, thanks, Bree. That is it. Let's see. Okay. Oh, good question. Didn't touch on this. Cash or accrual. You're going to use whatever your typical method of accounting is. Okay. So if people who are like, what the heck is cash and accrual? You're probably cash basis. Cash basis taxpayers means that you recognize income when you receive the cash, and you recognize expenses when you pay the cash. If you are accrual basis, you actually recognize income when you earn it. So, like when you actually issue the invoice, when you've earned the income, you are recognizing it. If you're accrual basis, you probably have things like accounts receivable and accounts payable sitting on your balance sheet. Otherwise, you are probably a cash basis. You're going to use that same basis for determining what your revenue, what your gross receipts is. So if you're cash basis, bank statement, that's going to be really, really good proof of your actual receipts in the quarter. So your quarter Q1 2020 bank statement and your Q1 2019 bank statement, right? So hopefully that will help you. I've heard a lot of people say that they're super close, right? Like they're right on the line. And go back and like audit yourself, right? See if you can find something. Even when I was doing the calculator, I'm like, I wonder if they're going to let it, like if you round to 24 and a half, is that going to round to 25? I don't know. They don't get into that level of detail, unfortunately. Yes. My quick calculator. Yeah, this is what I do. I mean, literally that's what I was doing last night, and it made me feel better. It worked. It made for a moment, I felt better. Okay, let's see. Okay. So your auto advance says sole proprietor here. Bank account is the same for personal and business. Oh no, don't do it. Separate them. Deposits show more than actually in sales, gross receipts. Do we just put a note on the statement saying, so it's going to get real. I don't know how you're going to do this. I don't know how you use your bank statements if you have it all commingled together. You're going to have to have really good records of. I would actually also make sure that you have, I don't know if you use QuickBooks or anything like that, or even at least an Excel spreadsheet where you've listed out what is just related to business, because it's going to be really tough if you don't have kind of all that separated out. So please, please, please separate it. It's easy. I would tell you to go start an ASLO account. I can't tell you that anymore, you guys. ASLO is closing, apparently. So I know a lot of you guys use ASLO. That's my bank as well. They are kind of caught up in the merger between BBVA and PNC, and they're going to be a casualty. Now, for those of you who have it, we're going to wait and see. They may migrate us over to BBVA or PNC. But know that I'm also looking for other fee-free business bank accounts. I have a couple that I'm investigating, but before I tell you guys whether to go sign up, I want to do a little bit more research and feel really good about wherever I send you. Okay, let's see. If you did not receive a couple of people are asking this. If you did not receive the first round PPP, they will be opening up as early as Monday. So be on the lookout for that. Ultimately, it is the same rules. You just don't have to show the 25% decline. So you will make sure that you have your 2019 tax return. If you're assuming you're using 2019, most people probably will be. Or if you want to use 2020, you can probably kind of mock up at this point your tax return. Some banks may also accept your P&L directly out of your accounting software. So you probably want to start getting your books together if you want to use 2020 as the basis. Again, I would go with whatever year you had a higher payroll cost to maximize your loan amount. Okay, let's see. Yes. Now, I don't know if, so we can play, I missed the grant and you turn down the loan. I don't know if I don't know if the fact that you've already applied for a loan would impact it or not. I wouldn't think so. So yes, I would think if you have not gotten a grant before that you would be able to apply when they open it. Let's see, I got a couple more minutes, you guys. If you got the first PPP loan, if you got the first PPP loan and use it to pay yourself during the second quarter of 2020, can you still use your second quarter? Yes, that's what I'm saying. You don't include your PPP loan when you're looking at your reduction of gross receipts, okay? The PPP is not included. This is just business receipts. Like you basically ignore it like it didn't happen. So I think that would be the case for a lot of people. I think Q2 is probably one of at least the quarters for a lot of people that would be down that 25%. A lot of people got PPP in Q2, but that's not going to invalidate you. You don't have to include that PPP money in the calculation of your gross receipts. Okay. So can you get a first draw and then a second draw when it opens back up? So probably not, because you would have had to fully utilize your first draw before you can get a second one. So more than likely you would not be able to do that. Even if you're a sole proprietor just paying yourself, technically it's 2.5 months worth of income. So you'd probably have to wait 2.5 months, right? You can't just get 2.5 months worth of income and then get another 2.5 months worth of income. You probably have to wait that 2.5 months basically to have used the money, right? But you have to have spent the money the correct way on the first round before you're eligible for a second round. And I believe this program right now, it goes through March 31st. I'm sure if it's still needed, they will extend it or potentially fund it again. We'll have to see how quickly funds go. But again, it is possible that they refund. If this goes quickly, I'm imagining that they're going to refund this and they will give people an opportunity to make sure that they can get it. But I don't think if you haven't gotten a first round at this point, I would not count on getting two. I'm doubtful that that's going to be something that will happen with most people. Let's see. Okay. So I think some people are having conversations together. So I'm trying to make it out. Yes, absolutely. PPP2 will be same forgiveness rules as PPP1. Again, it's been further laxed. It's been laxed now, though, for PPP1 and PPP2. There's more that you can spend it on. You still have to hit the 60% in payroll, but it can be applied to a lot more things. So it should be a lot easier to get forgiveness. Honestly, the way I see it is if you get the loan, it should, assuming you continue to employ people. If you shut down completely, it's going to be harder to get forgiven. But if you continue to employ people and pay people at least, you should be able to get this loan forgiven, in my opinion, if you're a continuing business. They are trying to make this as easy as possible for businesses that kind of stay open to be able to get their loan forgiven. Okay. Let's see. You do not need to request forgiveness on the first one before you get the second one. And we're still waiting on, I have not seen a new application out for the simplification. So remember, part of this bill also simplified for $150,000 loans and below how to get forgiveness. So I have not seen any guidance, like specific guidance or a application yet come out to that end. So I think a lot of banks have still kind of paused taking applications until we have really clear guidance on that forgiveness piece. There's probably going to be a new application. It's going to be a one-pager. There's going to be directions that go out to the banks about what they need to collect. They don't need to collect a whole heck of a lot. Oh, this is an important thing. Sorry. This is how my mind works. I just go all over the place. But An important thing too, if you want a second PPP loan, okay, you do have to be able to show the 25% reduction, but if your loan is for $150,000 or less, this is for the second draw, okay? If your loan is for $150,000 or less, then you don't need to show the documentation of the 25% reduction when you get the loan. You do need to show it when you get forgiven, okay? So as far as having support to show the bank to say, look, here's my 25% decrease, you don't need it. You can get the loan without it, but I do not recommend getting the loan and not being very certain that you have a 25% decrease, because you're going to have to show that when you go to apply for forgiveness. But that could be good if you want to use full year 2020 and you know you're going to have a 25% reduction, right? But you haven't filed your tax return yet. And by the time you file for forgiveness, that tax return will be done. So that could be an example of where it could simplify the process. But just wanted to bring that up because I think that that's going to help expedite the processing of these loans. I think that's really the point. Let's see. Okay. In general, you can't apply for another EIDL loan, but I believe you can apply to get your loan increased potentially. So there should be, if you already have one, go read your terms. There should be a way that you can actually apply to have it increased potentially. So I would reach out and do it that way. In most cases, you wouldn't apply for a second one. Let's see. So you're going to show this, however, I'm trying to read this quickly to make sure I understand what you're saying, but do you count the deposits that go in your checking account from Etsy or Amazon, or the sales that they show for gross receipts? Oh, okay. So as far as the timing, but only deposit money after fees. So it's how you record it. So if it's showing on your 1099 before it's included, then you're likely including that in your tax return, right? So basically, you're going to want to align with how you account for it, if that makes sense. So in most cases, I would think in this case, if you're getting a 1099 that shows you X, that's going to be the amount of gross receipts that you had, theoretically. If you're close, though, talk to your bank. Like if taking one methodology, right, is causing you to be on the wrong side of that 25% line, then talk to your bank, because, I think in most cases, you're going to get the same answer either way. So I wouldn't get too terribly crazy granular. I'd just pick one way to do it and stick with it. But ultimately, you're going to want to align it with how you're actually accounting for it. Let's see. Over 150 to forgive. Why do we? Oh, I'm losing your question. Why do we have to do all the detail on the person's reduction of income if their rate of pay is the same? You don't. FTEs in aggregate qualifies. I don't know what you mean by why do you have to do all the detail? I list them all out. You should only have to, I'm trying to remember on the full forgiveness, but you don't have to do a lot of detailed calculation if you haven't changed their, so do you know, you can still qualify for the easy. So this is important. Even if you have over 150,000 loan, if you qualify for safe harbor, which it sounds like based on what you're saying, you might, Julie, I would take a look at whether you can do the easy application, because that also applies even if you have a bigger loan. So just real quick, right now we have the 3508S, that's for 50,000 and below. That's the one pager, it's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy. That's getting confusing. 3508S is the easiest. Then we have the easy. I guess that's how easiest is 3508S. Then there's the easy form, which is for loans over 50,000 that meet safe harbor rules. I have some videos on it over on my YouTube channel. And then for loans over 50,000 where you don't meet those safe harbor rules, then you have to do the whole thing, the whole gamut, the whole calculation. So it just depends on where you fall in that, Julie, what you have to do. Go make sure to watch the tutorials I have over there. Now, remember, we're probably going to get, at least for 150K and under, we're going to get a new application coming soon. So that might take the place of like the 3508S. Yes, more than likely having a P&L. You might also want to have your bank statements because that could also be helpful support as well. Let's see. Yikes. Now remember though, so this is the person who asked about Etsy. Now remember, you have to add them at some point. So it surprises me that you're that different, because usually what happens is when you add in the deposits, like let's say you excluded the deposits, but then you would have the deposits kind of moved up from quarter 2 to quarter 1. This is not going to make a lot of sense, but ultimately it should sort of even out if you've had relatively similar numbers of sales, but there is some timing in there. I would talk to your bank about specific questions like that. I have not seen anything in guidance that goes into that level of detail. Or pick a method that makes sense. But I really think your most defensible method for figuring out your 25% is going to be to look at how you account for it. When you file your taxes, what do you do? And do something similar to that. Yes, you can get your second one while you're still waiting for forgiveness on your first, or if you haven't even, or if you have not even tried to get forgiveness, you can get it. Yeah, lots of banks are still waiting but it should be soon. It should be soon. Okay, so I'm going to be, thank you. You're kind. I can't see you. This is our own little mastermind. Okay, so I am going to be I wanted to mention this to you guys before I leave. I'll keep you guys updated as we have more information, as things roll out next week. It's probably going to be a fairly busy week with regards to new things coming out on the stimulus, and especially with PPP portals open. So make sure that you're paying attention, make sure that you're in the group. Also, just sidebar from this specific content, more general towards business finances in general. I have a special masterclass coming up next week. It is live. There are 3 different times you can choose from. It's not going to be here on Facebook. So that's why I want to tell you guys about it, because you have to register to be a part of it. It's only going to be for a limited time. There's going to be a replay, but only for a couple of days. So you have to register to be able to get it. It's called Fortify Your Business, and it talks about kind of the 3 keys to mastering your business finances. So if you want to really start thinking about 2021 and having a plan for your business finances in 2021, I really want you to be there. It's going to be awesome. I've got like a whole slide deck. It's going to be fabulous. It's a much more polished presentation than I usually do. So I want you guys to be there, jvtrell.com, Fortify Your Business. I believe it should be linked above or below. Make sure that you sign up for it though. Thanks, Bree. I know Bree will be there. Yeah, come on. Definitely come on over. It's gonna be really, really good. Okay, I think that's all I had. Let's see, more to come. I see some questions on EIDL. More to come on all of that, you guys. We're still waiting on a lot of guidance. So as it comes out, like the PPP guidance did this week, I'm going to keep bringing it to you. So your 2 action items, I want you to go download the PPP second draw calculator to figure out if you're going to be eligible. That is attached above, jamietrell.com/PPP calculator. And then also register for my masterclass above, Fortify Your Business. That is jamietrell.com/Fortify Your Business. Easy enough, right? So go to both of those places. Go right now. And I will see you. I will be back next week bringing all of the things to you, okay? Talk to you guys later.